This video is a continuation from the previous video. Okay, so what is the purpose of design? Who is a designer and what do design students study? Important questions, right? So the purpose of design in residential architecture is to improve human life. And that is, we've always got to keep that in mind when we're making design decisions. What is the most, or what is the best solution we can come up with in our design process to improve the lives of the people who inhabit our spaces? So who is a designer? Well, I mean, a designer is anybody who plans how something new will look and be made. That is very different from a delineator. Okay, drafting is delineating. Now, you will do delineation, you will do drafting, but you are being trained to be a designer. You are being trained to be the person who creates, who lays out, who produces a new product or a new style or a new look, right? You are the mastermind. You're being trained to do more than draw. And so it's important to understand this because quite often students will study 2 years of architectural drafting and not understand that it's not the first 2 years of architectural design. What you all are doing is architectural design. It is the first 2 years of learning how to be an architectural designer. Okay, so we are artistic creators and we use the principles and elements of design to visually communicate our design. We work with drawn, photographed, modeled, computer-generated images also. We choose and organize elements to create a message, and that message is a story. We literally are visual storytellers, and we're going to talk quite a bit about that in the module that addresses storytelling. Design is a part of everybody's daily life, from humble things like gum wrappers to billboards, t-shirts, shoes. Design informs, persuades, organizes, stimulates, locates, identifies, attracts attention, and provides pleasure. And then there's an entire history of design behind the shoes that are on your feet. And there's the link to that. And so everything that has to be produced needs to be designed. And that's not to say that you can't just go out and throw something together, but planning and preparing documentation to give to the person who's going to build a residence produces a better outcome than if you just throw things together. So design is essentially a creative process that combines art and technology to communicate ideas and create spaces. Whoops, my cursor got away from me there. And what we do is we develop visuals to represent the ideas that our clients want to communicate. So in our case, we're going to produce documents to give to the contractor who's going to build the design that we came up with to represent our clients' needs. Design theory explores the principles that underline what communicates and why. For example, why does one color communicate happiness to you and fear to someone from another society? It's a great question. And I know the answer, and I'm going to share that with you when we get to color theory. What are the ways culture affects the designer and the audience, as well as the person who inhabits our spaces? Well, we're gonna discuss that too. It's very, very important to always keep in mind that design is a service industry. We serve the needs of our clients who are paying us to solve their design issues. We work on their projects. We produce work for them. All the courses in this major are focused on serving the needs of our clients in order to be able to prepare you for the workforce. Technical colleges are workforce development. You are here and we are preparing you for jobs. Designers are the link between clients and their audience. And in our case, the audience is the client. On one hand, the client is often just too close to understand what they need, and they need someone objective to help them out. And then on the other hand, often design can be too broad to have any direct impact on how the things are communicated. So we serve as a representative of our client to our client. Okay. In our case, our client is both the client and the audience. And it sometimes becomes difficult because we have to have conversations with them as the client, meaning they're telling us what they need, but also we're having to have conversations with them as the audience, meaning that they're the one who is going to live with the end result of our design. And so that's two different sides that we have to process and communicate with. Designers think about forms and how they're put together to convey meaning. Just talked about Gestalt. That is part of what we do. Points, lines, planes, volumes, textures, colors, materials, how they're used and are laid out symmetrically, proportionally, rhythmically, are all aspects of our vocabulary. And we're going to teach you in this program that vocabulary. You are, as a student, learning the language of design. And it is a language. It's very much like learning, say, for instance, you decided you wanted to learn Chinese. Well, what do you have to do to learn Chinese? You don't just learn the words, or in their case, the symbols. You have to learn the culture. You have to learn how things are put together. You have to learn the structure. And that analogy is for also what we have to do with the principles and elements of design. So we're going to cover that in great detail. We're going to teach you that, and we're going to make sure that you understand how to apply that as a design student. Careers in design. Designers create solution design problems, but in novel ways that no one has ever seen before, and that's hard. A part of every solution includes a technical aspect. We're going to cover those. And at a technical college, you learn in a hands-on manner how you will use the tools of design while you're also studying the methodology of design. Whoops, and there we go. I lost my scroller bar there. Just decided to take a break. And so you also have to be familiar with basic tools, techniques, and processes in order to produce the documents that you need to create finished work. Okay? And so we're going to learn how to use those. Now, there are different schools of thought on residential designers, how much artistry you use. I consider myself an artist. Not all designers consider themselves artists. And we could argue and debate that. And maybe we will in a class. But ultimately, I will tell you that the most successful designers that I worked with in industry did not limit themselves to drafting software. They used cameras, they draw, they used other materials, and they saw themselves as artists. And they came up with more artful solutions to their designs. Because you can find design solutions that are very minimally creative, very non-artful. But those of us that are designers tend to refer to those as unsuccessful design. And I'll show you some examples of what I'm talking about. Now, technology always plays a role, but I don't think it should drive what we do. I mean, we need the technology, but you're not going to design something because the technology allows you to create it. So you have to create ideas in 2 and 3 dimensions using different materials, and that includes computer-generated software. However, in order to communicate, we have to be able to prepare presentations that show our design intent. And that requires additional training, additional learning, and you will learn to do that here as a student. The designer has to learn to clearly express and transmit ideas and instructions, as well as to receive and evaluate feedback. That is very important, and we're going to cover how to do that. I have a whole, like I said, I have a whole lecture on constructive criticism, and we'll talk about that more in that lecture. It's not only interesting, but it's important to understand that design history is out there, and we're going to look at it in order to gain an understanding of how we got to this point. We also want to look to the past for inspiration to understand themes and styles of technical development. And also, it helps us understand why we do what we do, how we do it. Okay. And design in design, students in design must develop processes for evaluating their work. So you're going to learn how to look at your own work to know whether or not you got it right or whether or not you change something. And we call this process the critique. And constructive criticism is one of the tools that we use. And we will do that. We will use that throughout this program. Okay. So ultimately, careers in design are service oriented and service driven. They are about our clients. It doesn't mean that we can't find great fulfillment in that, but the decisions we make have to be based on our clients' needs and our clients' comfort rather than we saw some really cool material that we want to use. So it's always something to keep in mind that when you receive feedback from faculty, it will mainly be from that perspective. And what we're giving you and what we're telling you is not meant to be mean or critical. It's meant to help you improve your work so that you are putting your clients' needs first and their comfort and their space as the priority. Okay, I'm going to end this video here and we'll continue in the next